Well, hey everybody. My name is Jared Malott. I'm here with my good friend Mateo Calise, and this is the Coltist. And this is season 2. This is episode 12, the
Nice
preseason
number.
edition, right?
Yeah,
Preseason edition. Um, and before we get going, Mateo, if you don't mind, my friend,
of course. Yeah.
for a few years now I've been making a podcast and never really have asked for followers or subscribers or likes, because, as Mateo would agree, this is a passion project. This is something we do not do for the money. It's not for the clicks. We actually do it because we like it. I actually like sitting and talking with you. You know what I mean? Like, but now I've been tasked. I have a job. I am a high school football coach for a brand new football program. So if you would, if you like the content I produce here with my colleague Mateo, in addition to the other content I produce, please subscribe to my channel, like the video if you do. Appreciate you. Also,
Yeah.
this is a brand new football program, and we have no support outside $1,000 grant that the Indianapolis Colts gave to my head coach because he's a black head coach. And then my coach's neighbor donated 20 bucks. That's it for a brand new high school football program. We have so few football players that we are not even playing 11-man football this year. We're only playing 8v8, and we went and met a bunch of the people that we will be playing against, and it is the most pitiful thing you've ever seen in your life. I'm going to put a link in the comments to download an application on your phone. You could support a brand new high school football program affiliated with Purdue University called Purdue Polytechnic North High School here in Indianapolis, Indiana, operating out of the old Broad Ripple High School, which is a historical building, actually. And you can download an application called Money Dolly, and you could support my football program by donating money directly. We keep 100% of monies donated. You could buy merch from the team that I coach, and you could even buy some food items like jerky or popcorn, understanding anything that isn't cash, somebody else is getting a cut of, right? The budget for the team for the year is 12,000 American dollars. I get paid 500 bucks and had to sign a contract that I wouldn't take any money outside of that. So keep in mind, I'm not making money off this. This is for these kids. This is for uniforms and pads and things that you need to operate a football game, like your down markers. We have to buy those brand new ourselves. You cannot borrow, you have to have your own set. We need to make sure these kids are taken care of, right? So, not to keep droning on, but I am going to put a link in the description. I would appreciate your help. That'd be real nice all the way around if you would. And then, hey, Mateo, to move along, there was a stinking preseason football game yesterday.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Anthony Richardson, brother?
Nah, yeah, I'm real. Of course, I mean, like all Colts fans, I think I'm really excited about this guy. I saw a tweet yesterday that perfectly encapsulated my opinion on what I saw from him yesterday that said, keep in mind this is Anthony Richardson's 14th college or NFL game. I mean, he doesn't have the playing experience, so there are going to be some bumps along the road. I mean, it's not going to be. I mean, he's not. I mean, hopefully he does. Who knows? But most likely he's not gonna come out and be like the most impressive rookie quarterback. Or I mean, there are gonna be plenty of bumps along the road.
Mhm.
But what I've seen from him and what I am looking for this year is like, do we have the tools to make a franchise quarterback in the future? First preseason game, you can't draw too much conclusions,
Yeah,
but first impressions are, yeah, this guy has the package to become hopefully a franchise quarterback.
well put. Yeah, and when I watched him, the first thing I watch is what effect does his presence have on the defense? Like, how have they scouted this player? How are they reading this player? And if you watch just the first series, just him looking past the handoff freezes the entire backside of a defense. And so that means when he hands the ball off, the box is lighter, the back gets more yards, gets down faster, and doesn't end up in a pile. So his effect is team wide. It's not you have a stable operator under center. That's not even what he is. He is so much of an athletic threat that when it
Yeah.
happens, when he's in a situation where I could keep it, I could hand it off, like in an option situation, it's going to completely affect that entire defense is going to have to game plan now on the backside. We're going to have to gamble. That's exactly what you want. As a football coach and an offensive coordinator, I want that backside defensive end crash, crash, crash so that I can option the hell out of you. Right. So that's just handing the ball off. Let's talk about his first completion, his first pass. That was a rifle shot, sidearm, like, and you're like, wow, you got the ball out quick. And he didn't have to use a vertical release to do, you know what I mean? It wasn't, you know what I mean? It was an underneath route. It wasn't
Yeah.
trying to do too much. It wasn't holding up pat, pat, pat stuff. It was 1, 2, 3, top of your drop, let it go. He had an interception. I want to make sure I talk about interceptions. I'm an offensive coordinator and I'm going to coach this sport at a high level, and I can care less about an interception, especially in a preseason football game, especially when the head coach comes out and says, nah, hey, so everybody knows that was bad communication. I take responsibility. And I'm tend to agree with people who take accountability. It'd be real easy if you're that guy to be like, yeah, it was a rookie mistake. Shit happens. He didn't do that. The head coach said, actually, that was my bad. I now like the head coach a lot better. And that makes me have a lot more faith in Anthony Richardson because I already said like he's doing so much for you without the ball in his hand, actually. Like he's handing that off or he's getting rid of that. That it freezes up a defense. I think it makes him the most interesting prospect. All
Yeah.
these other quarterbacks are ball throwers. He's got a cannon. I'm not necessarily poo-pooing his arm. I'm just saying I don't even think that's his biggest weapon. I think it's his eyeballs because he appears to be actively reading. You know what I mean? He's actually playing this game at a high level, and it looked fast already. The offense looked fast. And he only got a handful of drives, only played one quarter, didn't even play at all against starters. So a lot of that you're gonna have to be like, the tape doesn't even matter. But like I said, if you just go back, watch the plays before the pick, and you're like, I don't know, man. That's the other team is reading that as a clearly a quality athlete and gonna have to protect this backside, and that just
Yeah.
makes your run game that much more effective. Especially, I'm excited. Caveat, by the way, Jonathan Taylor expected back soon. Head coach Shane Steichen also said earlier today in media
Yeah, he's
availability.
expected.
The only thing left about this whole situation that is still weird to me, and I'm guessing I'm not alone because I think I read this somewhere. I'm a little weirded out about Jonathan Taylor being treated for an ankle injury away from the team within like 2 weeks of coming back. It's just,
Yeah, the
why do we
timing
have
is
to do it
not.
like that? You know what I mean? Like, why are we doing it like that? It's like, why wouldn't you go through the team? Yeah, yeah, and I get it. There's gonna be people out there like Jared, the Colts medical staff, not exactly. Let me tell you a little something about Andrew Luck. Okay. My head coach has been around Andrew Luck. He played with reckless abandon, and it's just the way he played football. It was gonna get him eventually. It got him a little early.
Yeah.
his style of play did not lend itself to a full-fledged NFL career. And you can look back on that and you could try to argue that, but there's a whole lot of positions Andrew Luck was in. Again, this is somebody who is now a offensive coordinator, got to take care of my babies, right? Um, why wasn't anybody telling Andrew Luck you already got the first down, get out of bounds, clean and upright, and still interested in football? Oh no, you're gonna lower your shoulder and take on three people? You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, that's not gonna end up well.
so never disrespecting Andrew Luck, but have come to understand some things that sometimes like that person's style of play, it may feel good to watch, but it has an effect. There's something after that when that guy's lowering his shoulder a lot. And hopefully Anthony Richardson, and I think a lot of players being treated like this now, but hopefully he's being treated like an Olympic sprinter in that like we're trying to keep you clean. I don't want you even sliding, really. I'd prefer you get down or get out of bounds. I don't want you on the
Yeah.
bottom of a pile. I don't want you to try to hold one up. None of that stuff. So I was I was really enthused. Even the pick, it looked so weird and unnatural from his throwing motion to like there being a defender there. Seemed weird. To the type of route that the receiver ran, and then it came back like the coach said that was his miscomms. So it's like, okay, I can write that off. And I didn't care about the pick anyway. You know what I mean? I'm more concerned with the ball control, like fumbling snaps, not handling that stuff, not getting the ball out quick, not getting the ball handed off, right? Those are things that you'd be concerned about. Um, Not looking like the ball had velocity on it when it came out. Um, a lot of people were texting me saying they felt like, oh hell, what's his name? The Georgia quarterback, Stetson Bennett,
Yeah.
that he actually looked the best. And I want to talk about profile. The problem with Stetson Bennett's ball is that it has a loop profile, meaning that the ball is not gaining as much velocity as it needs to, and it tends to have a little bit of a roll to it, which means it's looked like it's tossed, not looking like it's thrown. Watch a few of Anthony Richardson's balls from yesterday. Those things are a flat line.
Yeah.
And it's like that ball had velocity behind that because it was thrown by an athlete who has rotation. And I'd argue if you go back and watch Stetson Bennett's film, he's not a rotational athlete when he throws. He's just straight up and down. And when you're straight up and down, it's all arm. And I'm not saying it that don't mean he can't sling it, but it means that again, there's not as much velocity as there could have been. And your ball looks like you're tossing it. It's got a little bit of a lope to it. So those are things that you can demonstrably look at. Like, look at the ball speed comparatively to another guy that got to play and got a ton of shine. Everybody's like, oh man, he should be a starter. No, no. But Anthony Richardson looked every bit like exactly what I thought I was going to get. hmm Yep. Teams are going to have to play football a lot faster now, and resolve your play call a lot faster. Or a guy like Anthony can make you
Hmm.
just get you in such bad spots
Yeah.
that a lot of quarterbacks can't really put you in. Because the thing about like if Anthony Richardson was to roll out, you don't necessarily tend to pressure an athlete on the rollout. You tend to want to cover because they're not as good a ball thrower as they are a runner, and just try to meet them at the line. I don't actually think that's the play because I actually think he might be able to just throw it over you. And by the way, the ball to Alec Pierce, that is exactly how you throw the deep
Yeah.
ball.
It's yeah.
That is exactly what you hope he does every time he uncorks one, is put it where only his guy can get it. And again, I told you this before we started recording. I felt like if we were playing on grass, Alec Pierce makes that catch as opposed to coming
Yeah.
down on top of your arms on top of the ball with a defender there. That ball, and he's fishing for it too, like it's coming out. But if it's grass, I feel like he might be able to actually, he's got a little bit of more space before the bottom. And that's a catch. And I look forward to the sort of growth that you'll get to see out of guys like Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce and Anthony Richardson. Like these guys are going to get a lot of time together. Um, because obviously, if Jonathan Taylor comes back, he's going to get a lot of carries, and he should have a lot of success running. So that means just less balls, right? You think, all right, well then you're number one and two wide receivers. Maybe Downs. Also, I'm really impressed with his feet. Saw some video from training camp, and I'm actually one of them nerds. I shouldn't watch him do drills. Like, man, I know why they picked Josh Downs. Like that kid can fly. So yeah, I think this isn't not me saying like, oh, the Colts are going to win their division, go to the playoffs. I'm not even saying that. If you sniff 500, we're doing just fine. We're ahead of schedule, baby. Like, because keep in mind when I talk about the win share topping out at 4 wins year to year, that doesn't mean that the organization did what it needed to do to win 4 more games. And I don't think picking Anthony Richardson won you 4 more games. I'd actually argue this team's not as good as the teams in the last 4 or 5 years the Colts have had with quarterback turmoil. In terms of talent level, I'm a little less sure about the offensive line, right? I have no confidence whatsoever in the secondary. Um, and I think that there are going to be a lot of situations now that we've seen him play. My prediction is there's going to be a lot of games where he's standing on the sideline and we're losing, and ain't nothing he can do about that. Defense got to get a stop, and obviously, you hope there's a rhyme to the reason, and that maybe we've missed something, and maybe it's easier to develop corners and safeties now, and we don't need veterans in the back end that can diagnose plays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the Colts are just dumb young
Yeah.
on the secondary. They got
I
new
mean,
special teams ace though.
yeah, Grant Stewart, and we have. I mean, as for the secondary, I just wanted to say that I really like what I saw from the young guys, and I think that again, like with Richardson, there are gonna be some rough patches here and there.
Yeah.
Like without JT, I thought JT gave the Colts like a floor at like 6 to 7 wins.
Mm.
Without him, I think this is a team that could easily go, 3, 4 wins once again, something along the lines of that.
You heard it here.
But
We're
I
not
mean,
sitting here
yeah, I'm not.
saying Anthony Richardson's a world beater. He turned this franchise upside down. No. Looks like a good
Yeah, we're
prospect.
we're still yeah we're still a few years away. We still need some time to develop. And I really like, the cornerbacks from what I've been seeing of, the one guy I didn't know was Darrell Baker Jr.
Hmm.
I did not
Yeah,
have him in
himself
my
a nice
radar in
year.
terms, yeah, keeps me balling, I mean, relatively balling out. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-pro type of cornerback. I'm saying, hey, he might be a solid rotational guy. Okay, good to have those.
Hmm.
Then, of course, Darius Rush got the pick six.
Yeah.
And yeah,
A lot of
Jalen
people were
Jones, I
saying
thought the
that
nice,
like he
yeah,
should have been a first round draft pick,
yeah.
Darius Rush, and that he like slid to the Colts. Obviously, like if you're a Colts fan, like hell yeah, that's what I want to hear. Um, so yeah, I get what you're saying, but when I think about it as like continuity, youth, things like that, and their secondary is young and they don't have any continuity, and I'm just like, oh god, this recipe for disaster. So I get what you're saying. Like, well, they played well. Yeah. Can they do that 17 times? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
17 games. Ah, I would be surprised. Now, I will say this. I can't sit here and poo-poo everything. I think our defensive line might actually be doing something. You know what I mean? Like they that front seven might, or six or whatever, might actually be pretty good. But yeah, I'd be concerned. And obviously I think I heard, and I got to confirm this, that the Colts actually used like three different rotations at offensive line in that first preseason game. If I don't know, is it an endemic thing? Is it an NFL thing?
I
Like, is
I don't
it like the NFL cannot have a team with offensive line depth and like
know.
a functional rotation? Is that like a league wide thing?
Yeah, it's a league-wide problem because the issue is they're just so with the way defensive ends and defensive tackles have been evolving, and like it's just hard to find five guys that are
Right.
able to stop those monsters. Teams usually, I mean, if you look around the league, teams usually have like two or three really good guys, and then they
Mhm.
have two that you're like, okay, that those two are clearly the weak spots.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at the Colts have, in my opinion, Raymond, Nelson, and Braden Smith are the good guys, and Ryan Kelly and Will Fries are the guys you look at and say, yeah, I don't know about those two. I mean, kind of suspect. And
Fortunately, they are front side to the right-handed quarterback, so they're going to be in a double team situation a lot. So it's I get what you're saying. I'm concerned about the O line because I see no depth, no rotational depth. And if you have no actual depth and then no rotational depth, that means that you're an injury away from, again, this season not actually being on Anthony Richardson. I think that you may have to settle with the reality that like I'm I'm not saying he can't be like a guy that occasionally goes off, but I don't think the NFL is going to lend it to too many like 400-yard, five touchdown games. It's going to take to be able to hold up your defense. Because again, I get what you're saying. You're like, I thought they played pretty good. I think they're going to struggle to do that 17 games, and that's a worse problem to have, in my opinion, than the quarterback. Because quarterback is one person.
yeah,
Like I get it that there's been some growth and development of players, and you never know what'll happen, and maybe that's actually a good thing because the defense is a harder time to game plan against an unknown set of corners. Like I don't know what they're gonna do because we don't know who these people are. You know what I mean? Um, because they certainly gave away or missed out on signing any kind of depth at cornerback
yeah,
safety. Um, but yeah, it don't matter if the reality is this is we could all be just looking at this JT situation the wrong way. Maybe he's right. Maybe he's going to come out here and ball out and have been worth that investment. And then he's going to spurn us and be like, nah, I'm just going to take the same paycheck I'm going to make here. I'm going to do it somewhere else because you guys didn't have faith in me in my contract year. Right. If that's the case, like I said, I still think that it's going to be very difficult for a rookie NFL quarterback to get into a shootout and win. So if we know that ain't it, you know what I mean? Like he's just not going
yeah,
to be as efficient. Not if that quarterback is savvy, not if the other guy's savvy. So yeah, I I want to even further temper expectations because there have been a lot of people that are like, you got to think like if JT comes back, then they're like a playoff team, and it's like, no, I think in the past we've been a little confident in them, and they've underperformed. And now I think it's another one of them seasons like you're saying. Hey man, 5, 6 wins, you're like, whatever. Could be 3 and 4. Could be 3 or 4. It could be a repeat of last year. And again, I will always, the rest of my days, say that they were tanking and
yeah,
trying to lose last year. And anybody, and I get it. The players are like, "Oh no, how am I supposed to feel as a player when somebody tells me you're tanking on purpose?" And it's like the game against Minnesota. Explain how somebody wasn't getting beat up on the sideline. You know what I mean? Like when you're up, well, I think they up 33 nothing and lost. Isn't that
yeah.
what it
I
was?
believe it was something like that.
Somewhere around like half of that, I'm losing my shit. Like what has happened defensively that now we are a wet paper bag? And obviously offensively when you're up 33 nothing and lose, it's like where did you drop it? Like what happened that you couldn't hold on to that lead and that, you know what I mean? It's because you're trying to lose for a draft pick. I wish they're never going to come out and admit that. It's always some guy like blowing the whistle saying like, no, we were,
Hmm.
what was it? The Carolina interim head coach was like, no, they paid me to lose games. Um, because it would have a future implication on people's
Yeah,
coaching
it's
careers.
not yeah, not nice.
And I get it. I'm the kind of person I want to try real hard until the last whistle or whatever. But yeah, the Colts got a handful of preseason games. I think if I'm the Colts, you might see less of Anthony Richardson moving forward. Because I wasn't that impressed with Gunnar Minshew or Sam Ellinger, and it's like, hey, if Anthony Richardson goes down, you got what, right?
Hmm.
And I felt like
Yeah,
those guys didn't play that well. So it's like I think they actually need more time. I mean, you still get him a series or two, but he went through three full and the full quarter, and it's just like you really want to throw him out there for like a half or more? No,
yeah,
like it'd be different if he was struggling, he was terrible. No, he was productive. Let the backups get at least some shine. Maybe one of them gets bought or something. You know what I mean? Somebody says we can build an offense around Sam Ellinger. Sorry, I can't say that with a straight face.
nah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, but yeah, it's definitely with the exception, really. That's the way I think about off-season summers with the Colts. I think about drama and injuries, right? And it's where they had a fifth round draft pick get hurt, the end of rookie OTAs, Scott, right? It was like a fifth round draft. He's a safety. And then Jonathan Taylor, this hold in or whatever, nursing an injury now is what we're being told. Um,
yeah,
but otherwise, man, what a great off season it looked like. It's like you said, like so to give you credit on what you said, because instead of just disagreeing with you, I hate when people do that. It's like you could definitely tell the Colts have improved. Look at all these young players out there playing, getting time, making plays. There's
yeah,
Anthony Richardson. There's two people you could point at and say, like, look, 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 they did stuff. Um, you got to have that happen with your draft picks in order for like a whole bunch of people to keep their jobs, right? So, uh, it's uh, it's a nice spot to be in. I feel like it's a breath of fresh air. I don't know about you, but like for like the last since Andrew Luck has left, every quarterback you're like, oh God, this is about to be
yeah,
awful, isn't it? And you know what I mean? Like, oh, and it is. Um, with the exception of Philip Rivers, I thought
yeah. That was kind of nice. Yeah,
for a 1 year deal, dude came in there and killed it. He did great.
yeah. He bowled.
Um,
Yeah, he was he was solid. Yeah,
on in his last year. But like I said, since obviously before Andrew Luck retired, I haven't felt this good at quarterback. Because I mean, I was awful cocksure when back in the day when Andrew Luck was like healthy and still interested in football. I was pretty confident in the Colts. Like, it actually doesn't matter who the other team is. Like, I'm pretty sure has this gene in him. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. And now I'm like, when I watch Anthony Richardson, I'm like, oh, if this were a game, he'd be tearing you up because he would be free to pull the ball and they wouldn't, you know what I mean? They wouldn't say, you just need to hand that shit off and throw it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, don't get hit. Um, but yeah, definitely a lot to look forward
yeah.
to. Definitely going to
I mean,
be a
it's gonna
bumpy
be
ride
entertaining.
though.
Yeah,
So it's like, it's going to be, yeah, entertaining is a good
yeah.
word.
At least I'd rather have what I usually think it's. I'd much rather have a bumpy road upwards than a smooth road downwards. Than I
Mm,
thought that's what we were having. And
yeah.
that's I
That's
last
that's
season.
great. Yeah, that's where which
Yeah, I
we've been
mean,
doing is just gradually
yeah,
going
steadily,
from competitive to
and what
terrible.
I last season, I made the comparison like are the Colts slowly becoming the Pacers because I thought that the Pacers, they were not bad, they were not that bad as the Colts last year, but they were, constantly getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse
Yeah,
and worse. And luckily, both teams realized and said, "Hey, this is not doing us any favors." And the Pacers went out and got an all NBA caliber player in Tyrese Halliburton,
absolutely.
and now the Colts have a guy that can. I mean, of course, with quarterbacks, you wanna say, okay, it takes some time. It's not. I mean, if it were easy, every team in the NFL would have average quarterbacks, and it's not the case because it's really hard to find a franchise quarterback and develop him properly and take proper care of him. Keep him focused on the NFL and keep him healthy and productive. It's hard, it's not easy, and it's gonna take some time. But looking into the future, I'm optimistic about this team.
Yeah, I think if I'm so I something sticks out of my mind is the first day Anthony Richardson's at rookie camp and Darius Leonard comes out and I don't remember who the other player was and they would like had their pads off and just sat and watched him. Just watched the rookie quarterback for a few minutes and then saw what they needed to see and both stood up, strapped in, like, yep, okay, yeah, he can play. So I don't know what they saw in rookie camp. Um, but like I said, the first throw he makes, watch him put his foot in the ground, change his arm angle, complete that pass, and then ask yourself realistically, how many quarterbacks in the NFL do you think can make that throw with velocity? I guarantee you it's like five because he has some real heat on his sidearm ball. And it was, I don't know, like I said, you can go to other balls, you're like, wow, like, yeah, the ball's coming. You know what I mean? And that's what even the guys that write about the Colts had said. Like when you watch other people throw to warm up, you can tell when he throws that ball, you're like,
Yeah,
whoa. And that's just because he's a whole stick. What is he? Did they say he was like 6'5", 248 or something like that? Or 6'4",
yeah.
6'5", 248. God, man. So for perspective, if you've actually met me in person, I am 6'3" and 3/4, and about a year ago was 248 pounds. So I'm probably about a little more than an inch shorter than him. Yeah, that's he hopefully he likes football for a long
Yeah.
time, boy, because that's like a machine that was built to play football. Um, but yeah, so rather than sit here and gloat over a preseason loss, what
Hmm.
we should probably do is talk about the other up and coming sports franchise in my home city of Indianapolis. One of the reasons that this podcast is interesting to me is because one of us lives in Indiana, in Indianapolis, and thus it makes sense that I'm a Colts and Pacers fan. And Mateo, we were just talking about Mateo is from Argentina, basically like the
Yeah.
suburbs of the major metropolitan area in Argentina, Buenos Aires, right?
Yeah.
And I just think that's an interesting perspective that I met someone over the course of my life that is not from even the United States that loves the Pacers and the Colts. I think that's the coolest thing. I want to be your best friend. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's like, how and why? You know what like of
Yeah,
all
it's
the
kind of,
teams.
yeah.
Of all the teams. But that said, with the Pacers, there's not nearly as much to talk about. Summer's
Nah.
really quiet for NBA players. Team USA, however, is playing in the FIBA. It's called the USA. It's called a basketball showcase. And the reason we even talk about it is because, well, the Pacers have a point guard, Tyrese Halliburton, that is the starting point guard for Team USA. Um, they're 3-0. Two of them wins were blowouts. This game they just beat Spain by 10. No big deal. But that's about it, really, when it comes to talking about the Pacers. Obviously, you could spend forever like taking apart a preseason game, or you could just say, "Hey, man, tons to be excited about." Not at all calling anybody a
Yeah.
world beater, but it's like, "Hey, I'm excited for this." Yeah, actually surprise the people. You got ahead in the NFL. Hey, not everybody's coming back from 33-0. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So yeah. So I don't know how you feel at this point about the length of our podcast, but I try to keep it reasonable.
Yeah.
The preseason
Yeah.
game. Um,
It's how it should be, like most of the ones I hear before, it's the perfect balance between too long and not too short. It's an
Yeah.
hour or so, 45 minutes, an hour. That's the type I like to. That's the range. I think it's perfect.
And I try to do the thing, right? Where you're like, hey, this podcast is about the appropriate length. One of the things you'll notice is I do not enable ads on my content. Maybe I will one day. But again, if you like the content that I produce, please consider subscribing and liking. It helps us get found by people who weren't. And also, I'm going to leave a link in the description to a fundraiser that my football program is having. And I'd appreciate your support. Um, have a good rest of your week.
Yeah.
I think I was gonna say, I think do the Colts play on Thursday? No, the Browns Eagles do. Colts play on Saturday at 7 o'clock on NFL Eastern at home against the Bears.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, so maybe we'll get to see Justin Fields versus Anthony Richardson, two of the sort of the young guns at quarterback in the
Yeah,
NFL.
it's gonna be
Yeah,
entertaining. Yeah.
maybe we'll get to see them duel it out a little bit. That'll be fun. But yeah, have a great rest of your week. We'll talk soon. Try to do this every week for the season
Yeah.
now. Sweet. So we'll try to get together every week during the NFL season. We try to do it like after the game. So
Yeah, usually we do. So yeah.
Sunday or Monday nights, we'll probably be recording and putting out this podcast. I try to like upload it after we finish. I'm gonna upload it and then make it go live. And I always put it in an article that comes out probably tomorrow. But yeah, thanks everybody.
So yeah.